Welcome to the Out on a Limb podcast. We are all interconnected to a greater web of consciousness. Our aim is to open your mind to a new world through having open-minded discussions about what we perceive our reality to be.
Hey everyone! Thank you for joining us on Out on a Limb podcast with your hosts Will, Allison, and Samantha. And of course, we were laughing right before we came on because that's what we do.
That's what we do here.
And Samantha has a new haircut. Yes. Isn't it cute?
I'm still going to play with it just as much, though.
I love it. It's so cute. It makes you look younger.
But I feel like I need to. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, I didn't think I'd get. I want to now. I want to just like put like stripes in it. And stuff.
No.
Go get fair hair.
Fairy hair. You could do that.
Fairy hair.
Then we'd match.
You can
need more fairy hair.
But
I
you
need
can put
more.
it in all kinds of colors. You don't have to just go silver. You can like put what was that word? Purple?
Purple?
I don't know.
Which
Purple.
His shirt is actually purple, but it looks completely blue.
Purple. What was it you said? It's so purple you could taste it.
You could almost taste it.
Yeah.
It's so
It's very
purple you
rich
could almost
purple,
taste
grapey.
it. But here it looks blue, like a
Right.
blueberry. So I don't know.
But he put on purple
Like a
because of the
schnozberry.
topic of today's episode, because we haven't talked about extraterrestrials or UFOs in a while.
No.
One of my
How
favorite
does purple
topics.
I know.
How does
I'm waiting.
purple
You
tie
said-
in? I know.
You said that it would go well. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just,
So none of us knows how purple ties into any of that.
let's just
yet.
say my shirt is as purple as this, but it's not showing purple on the screen.
And this is not black. This is navy.
It's
Yours
pink.
is black, though, and it looks...
No, that's
No,
black.
that's black. That's black.
Definitely not
It's
black.
black. If you put navy up
I
against
promise
black,
you it's
you can tell a
navy.
difference.
That's nowhere near
At
navy.
any rate, our viewers are not here to watch us talk about our clothing choices.
Hey, this just livens up the energy. That's all.
Right, it does. But we're here to talk about UFOs and craft and extraterrestrials and all that fun stuff because Will and I just got back from the Withville UFO Fest. It was
Yes.
just this past weekend.
You can't say that 6 times fast.
It's tough.
With Phil.
Yeah, it's
Withville UFO Fest?
Withville.
It is a mouthful.
Yes.
What date are we? Today is the 14th, June 14th?
Yeah, I think so.
We're taping on June 14th, so it was the weekend prior,
Yep. Yep.
the first weekend of June. And it was really, really fun.
Wait,
we had
first,
a good time.
I let Allison down. I let Will and Allison down because I bailed.
Samantha was supposed to join us.
Yes. Yeah. So I missed all of the
You
frivolity.
did.
It was
And the
fun, though.
horses at Grayson Highlands. So we have a property up near Withville in Fries, Virginia. And we happened to find out that Withville apparently was
A scene
like
of
ground zero for tons of UFO sightings around the 80s,
Right.
87 maybe.
yeah, somewhere around there. Mid-'80s.
Everybody in the town was seeing things.
Yep.
There was a rumor that one landed on the top of the grocery store. I mean, just all
Yes.
kinds of crazy
The food
stuff.
city of all places.
Food City. So in honor of that, and I think it was maybe the 30th or 40th anniversary. I can't do math quick in my head while I'm online here. But they did the first annual. So this one was the third annual.
Yes.
They had about 2,000, I think, participants the first annual, 4,000 the second annual.
had
There were
about
about five
5,000 to 6,000
people. So it
this
was a
time.
pretty big deal. It was really, really nice. The organizers were fantastic. And we met some incredible people. Why are you smiling?
No, just 'cause I'm thinking about the whole event. Like
There were some
when I heard
funny
about it,
things
yeah.
that happened, which I'm not going to get into.
But no, what I was really laughing about, because you made a point about the food city of all places, and I'm thinking, well, what would they have thought if they'd landed on the Piggly Wiggly?
Good point.
I mean, like, what would they make of us? If,
Good point.
so that's what happens.
Good point. Valid point, I guess.
pig?
Yeah,
They
the
landed on the
Giant
pig?
pig.
They would have wanted the shirts, you know?
No, right,
like They would have
exactly.
been wearing little, like, it.
Smocks.
That takes me to the, whole Seth Rogen, with Paul, Have you ever seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
Y'all, you got to go see Paul. That's a recommended
That's a
must-see.
movie?
Yeah. and-
Paul?
yeah, so Paul is an alien
I
who's
was going to
been
say he's
left behind.
real
right.
irreverent,
Yeah,
type
and I'm
of
thinking
alien,
about
yeah.
him wearing a T-shirt that had something on it, and I don't think he had a Piggly Wiggly shirt
Yeah.
on it, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
something similar to it.
I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen the actual movie.
Oh, it is seriously cool. But anyway, okay, I digress slightly.
So what was fun about it is that we don't do a whole lot of festivals and stuff, but when we have done them, they've been kind of metaphysical, spiritual
It's
festivals.
all been in the metaphysical space.
So you're sort of preaching to the choir, which is nice, and you're meeting fellow like-minded people. But this was completely different because the people who were coming to this festival were people who were interested in experiences, seeing craft, perhaps seeing extraterrestrials, like in the physical aspects of UFOs and craft and all of that sort of thing, or perhaps have had an abduction experience, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And also there were people who were interested in cryptids. Now I learned a new word. Have you ever heard of cryptids?
Well, I saw that whole exchange y'all had about cryptids, and I thought that was
and that's
fascinating.
Maybe you guys know what a cryptid
Well,
is.
and that was the predominantly that was the vendor class, I would say, in the vendor arena. Many people selling the cryptid stickers and magnets and shirts,
Stuffed animals
and
and-
stuffed animals.
You got to give the definition of cryptids.
So a cryptid is an umbrella term to explain all of the sort of mythological creatures like the chupacabra, Loch Ness Monster,
Bigfoot,
Sasquatch,
Yeti, all those things.
all
Can't-
of those.
Okay, so when you say
Mothman.
mythological, can you put
I don't know another
Sasquatch
word. What's
under-
another-
It's not.
It's not mythological.
No, it's
but-
not.
I don't know what other word to use, but it's
Yeah.
those types of creatures that people don't necessarily think are real.
Yeah, the unexplained.
Well, here's a new term that fell into my arena
right.
in the last couple of days, and I've been posing this to my, fellow group, that my social media feed on X has been filled with a lot of UFO extraterrestrial things, different interviews, different groups.
Algorithms.
Yeah, well, but the problem with that would be my algorithm would kick in if I actually went to a particular site or a particular link
some of them.
within X
Yeah.
to fill in the rest behind. We're taping on Saturday. So Friday, when I woke up and I hadn't clicked on anything, every single thing under my feed was filled with UFO, this and that, and contact and
Disclosure,
disclosure. I mean, it just
Get
was
ready for
riddled.
shit to be happening.
Right.
really
It was very,
Sounds
very
bad.
strange. And so Allison opened hers and there was nothing on it.
Not like that.
But anyway, so one of the terms that I've been seeing over and over again is this term called crypto-terrestrial.
Cryptoid, wasn't it?
No,
crypto?
crypto-terrestrial.
Okay,
So-
crypto-terrestrial.
right.
So that's what they are.
Right.
Crypto-terrestrial. They're terrestrial beings.
Right.
The things that inhabit the earth or the waters.
Yeah, and that makes sense because anybody who's studied, anybody who knows a Sasquatch will know that they're existing between our plane and another plane of existence, and that's why we see
Different
them and then we
dimensions.
don't see them.
Right. It
And
can fade in and out between the different. Yeah,
So although I say mythological, they still exist because mythological figures, true mythological figures, still exist as an energetic, and you can communicate with them or connect with them.
yeah.
I did
right.
not know that.
Sure, you did.
No, but I could connect with a unicorn.
Yes.
Yes. Unicorns, sprites, fairies, dragons.
Well, no, the sprites. Okay, I've connected with fairies and I've connected with like little. I don't know if they
thinking-
were sprites. I can't remember what they were.
I'm thinking of mythological like Odin in the myths.
like Greek mythology and
Those types of-
that thing.
Are we
So-
talking about like their like thought forms, and so you can connect with the thought
right,
form?
Yeah.
right,
So like
right.
yeah,
Yeah, I
like
guess you could. Okay.
So I say mythological, but those of us who understand these creatures understand that they are actually beings just in a different dimension.
Right.
Because we haven't personally, but people have had interactions with them.
Because you can't make that shit up.
yeah, right.
Like you can't. I mean, there's a reason
Like where,
why.
and they all see the same
yeah.
image,
there's,
right?
there's symmetry with the connection with a lot of people.
Or they've descended into Middle Earth, and those stories have come up here, and that's how we. Anyway, I don't know, but yes,
Right.
I get all that.
So cryptids were a big thing, so we learned that. I literally have been in this arena since 2015, never heard
Never heard of it.
of a
Never heard
cryptid.
of that. Yeah, never heard of a cryptid.
So I walked up to the first venue, I'm like,
What's a cryptid?
what is a cryptid? And she explained to me, and I almost picked up one.
I mean, the thing is like you go to a metaphysical
bought
fair
one.
or
Oh, a stuffed animal?
Yeah.
yeah.
I was going to buy one.
Because the way you're saying
Picked
that
up
is,
one?
I almost got me a cryptid.
Get home.
But I mean, we've done a number of metaphysical fairs and events and venues and stuff. none of that exists
Because
there.
that wasn't
So this
the
is a
topic.
whole
This
different.
is a whole different genre.
Yeah, I
Different
almost did like
audience.
a level, but that's wrong. It's genre.
So what
right.
what I would say is, if you had to categorize it in something that you would, and this is not to be derogatory.
No.
But it's as if you were to, kind of like a vaudeville carny kind of sense to it. It just had it had a really cool vibe.
Unique, very unique. A lot of
Yes.
unique, neat people. They did a costume contest.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that on my
Yes.
Facebook? It was cute. There were people dressing up all day long. And in fact, one of the organizers,
Yeah.
she was fabulous.
She was in costume. She said she was up at 4:00 in the morning, and she was literally painted green.
Oh,
from
I saw the green
head
one
to
with-
toe.
She was
painted
fantastic.
green.
Yeah, go to Will's feed or Allison's. I think it was on yours that the green.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
But it's a very accepting, open to the possibilities way of looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
the world, which is to say,
Right.
hey, I don't know if this is real or not, but why not?
I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah. But
But here's what's interesting. So the people in this type of environment, they, like I said, they're looking for the physical manifestations of
Right.
this type of thing, versus what we were there to do, because we presented. We were one of the 5 presenters there, and then we did a roundtable at the end. But we were there to present the metaphysical, spiritual aspect of UFOs and
the higher
craft and
consciousness
all of,
aspect of it.
right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that were there, they were fascinated. We got a lot of good feedback from our talk, but they really didn't understand this perspective or why it was important for us to understand it from a spiritual aspect, or why
Because it's the real
extraterrestrials,
deal.
right? Why they want to connect with us, and
Yeah.
why we should have intersections with them and communication. And
But I think it kind of takes, in a way, I mean, think about it, because they're having fun with it. But there is a belief, in the genre and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But like now you're taking it into a very
Real
serious.
place.
No, I mean, and not that it's not still fun and interesting and fascinating, but now it's like
Yeah. There's legitimacy to it.
there's a level of, okay, now I need to be respecting,
Or exploring it in a different,
fear-based.
right, not fear-based, and exploring it differently.
Yeah.
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 Because there's more to it than just a fanciful kind of, thing that might be happening, or just something, odd and unique that's taking place. No, there's actually a reality behind this, and maybe what I'm sensing and this is the feedback, and this is what we experienced after our talk. We had a lot of people that came up to our table afterwards and said, I've had experiences, but I wasn't ever understanding of what it meant, or maybe now that I understand, now what can I do with this? Now that I
that's
had
really
this
cool.
experience, what can I do with it? Because a lot of people have experiences and they just sit on it like an egg, and it never hatches, right? It just sits there and just cooks off. And
right. So one of the audience members raised her hand at the end. We had a couple of questions, and she said that her father had an experience with, well, she thought it was manta ray. I said, probably mantis. She goes, yeah, mantis. And it was very frightening for him. He's no longer with us, but she wondered, which was interesting. She wondered if it would affect her
downstream.
and her DNA
Because
downstream.
she said that he was told that he had been implanted with chips and different things.
Or his DNA had
was
been altered.
changed and altered. Would that then transfer into me?
Which is
because
interesting
this is
because
prior to her
Right.
because she had no idea that the mantis beings do work with DNA.
Right.
That's exactly what they do. But if you're coming to it without this understanding, then it's going to be fearful. You're going to be scared to death.
Yeah, you're going to think, what's wrong with me? And what if they, instead of,
Right.
okay, what kind of cool stuff
This is
have
great. I
they
got an
given me?
upgrade. Right.
Yeah.
And so she was so relieved. She bought the book and a workbook, I think. And
So cool. You're
Yeah.
going to have to do the course again.
it was, I think we've decided we're going to do it like every January.
We'll probably
maybe?
do it annually every year.
If you're interested in the origin story, 12-week book study, it was unbelievable. We had a huge group of just lovely people that joined us and got a whole lot out of it. And I think we'll repeat that. So be on the lookout. We'll probably advertise it here on YouTube as well.
And I don't know if we brought this up in another episode, but I'm going to bring it up again. For those that might be wondering, I'm not going through a goth phase. I actually smashed my fingernails between 2 pieces of wood. So
right.
I'm not painting my nails black. It's just, they're damaged.
But you fit in at the UFO
I did.
Fest. Because there was a lady or something doing on the spot tattoos.
Yeah.
If you wanted a UFO tattoo or something.
So.
Somebody said, I wouldn't want to be her last session at like 5:45 when she's been tattooing all day long and she's
day
probably
long.
exhausted.
That's where you have the no regrets.
Regrets.
Yeah. and no regrets.
Exactly. That was
So-
what Natalie was said. That's funny. All right. So it was really nice to be able to communicate to these people in our audience about love. The foundation of our galaxy is love, and about the 12 dimensions and the difference between them seeing them in physicality, which meant they're probably in 5D versus those that we communicate with that are 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional beings that don't have a body. And how they come in. We talked about how they might either go through the normal birth process with an ET energy, or they are a shapeshifter, and that they are walking around on planet Earth right now. So we were able to really expand their understanding and take what they knew and build on it. So it was so invigorating. It was so much fun. It was so neat to be able to talk to different groups of people rather than sort of preaching to the choir of the people that already
I
understand.
think there were two, out of all of them, there were two vendors that were in the metaphysical space, but other than that, it was just a really cool group of people. And this is we're talking a little mountain town of maybe, I don't know how big Whitfield is, maybe 20,000 maybe of people. And you had curiosity the entire day. I mean, it was just so nice.
You didn't have to go all the way out to Roswell for their annual whatever, like, or Las Vegas to Comic-Con.
For those who are interested, and I'm not sure when this will air, but there is a World UFO Fest. And I don't know if world means that they present this UFO Fest in different parts of the world, but it's in Georgia this year, Clayton, Georgia, I think. And it's at the end of June. It's at the end of
I think, yeah.
End of June?
End of June. So if this airs in time, which I think it will,
No, we already are slotted.
are we?
This will
Okay.
roll into July,
All right, we'll catch it next year, see where that is, World UFO Fest. At any rate, one of the other things that I want to go into that we talked about in our talk with the people is that some have had abduction experiences, and, you know, even the word abduction is not a pleasant term. It brings up traumatic
Fear.
memories, and a lot of people who have had abduction experiences, or I like to call them intersections, are traumatized and have serious repercussions. You know, you hear in the movies that they shoot you with something
Probe
that's
you.
going to make you forget, that'll make you forget.
But it doesn't always work.
Right, either that or these things resurface later. So we talked about how if you have had an abduction experience, or you've had a sighting even, or whatever, then you have contracted that for your existence in this incarnation, in this lifetime. So it might be that these are your ancestors, the galactic ancestors, that you've agreed to help. So Bashar has talked about this. He is an Essassani, 300 years in the future, which is essentially the Zetas, the Greys. Do you remember how did we talk about this before, about their emotion and how they bred out emotion?
Yeah, but is Essassani part of the Zetas?
Yes,
They are-
but that's
they are? Okay.
them evolved.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. What was the question?
Now, well, that brings
We've
up
talked
the-
about why that was and why they
yeah.
how they evolved.
And they do not like the term abductions, you know,
Right.
because they're like,
Right.
abductions is something against your will. And they're like, no, this is contracted. So for us to even
Right.
be using the words, we say abduction because that's the label that's been given, because
Right.
the perception is it's against our will.
Right.
But it's actually there's a word that they use, and I was trying to remember it when you were talking. That's why I was kind of going.
I was
off in
just
this.
calling it intersection, but what I wonder what the other.
It's not borrowing, but it's I can't remember, but it's definitely a contracted agreement. It's not just
Right.
by oops, you know.
Yeah.
And this is what we wanted to communicate to those people in the audience, because that's a big misconception. From your conscious mind, if you don't remember, because we don't remember, we're not supposed to remember all of the contents
Right.
of our contract when we come in, right? So from your conscious mind, it isn't an agreement. You don't remember agreeing to
Yeah.
that, right? And so we get it. But we want you to understand that as you learn more about yourself and your contract, you understand that you did sign an agreement with some of these beings to help them. Now, I want to talk about the help. What we understand from talking to our Zeta is they've started to breed out emotions. You know, the Zetas, the Greys have this reputation. They have a bad reputation because of the movies, unfortunately, and they're not all bad, just like humans are not all bad. But they have this reputation of being very intellectual, very computer type people that just
Cold.
process.
Very cold.
Yeah, that process information. and they don't have any emotions because they thought we're better off without emotions. Emotions bog us down. Who likes emotions? We know that emotions are troublesome sometimes, right? They bog us down. They make us not feel good. You can't get a lot done when you're in the throes of a big emotional outburst or whatever. So they're like, let's get rid of it. Well, the problem is they didn't realize that that was going to cause their entire species to eventually just
kind of die out.
Yes.
And,
yes.
It's a problem.
And so what they're doing now is they are trying to re-engineer themselves. And I guess they were successful since Bashar is 300 years in the future and they did it. So that's why they're coming in to pull strings of our DNA, because humans have 12 strands of pure DNA, one for each of our galactic ancestors. We're the only beings in the galaxy that have the pure strands any longer. The hybrid beings like the Zetas or the Mantis or blue avians or any of those hybrid beings, they don't have pure strands. So they have to come to the human to do that. So they're pulling strands of our DNA to supplement their own DNA so that they can build those emotions back in.
And the humans
and not be
agreed
extinct.
to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
To help them.
Right. And so it does feel, that's the other thing, is when the Zetas come to us and they don't have emotion, they don't understand why we're afraid.
Yeah.
They're like, you agreed to this. So they either don't remember or it's not on the front of their mind that we don't remember that we did this.
Yeah, that they need to try to explain anything,
Yeah.
make you feel at ease.
Right.
Any of that stuff.
Because they don't get fear. They don't understand why we'd be afraid. And they're just like showing up in the middle of the night or whatever they're doing, pulling
We're
you
here.
up to the
This
ship.
is the day you
Right.
assigned for it. So let's
let's
get
roll
on
with
with
it.
it. Right. Let's get on with it.
Right. So we talked a lot about that with the audience members to give them a little bit different perspective. It's not that it isn't traumatic. It still can be because, again, your conscious mind doesn't remember.
Well, and your conscious mind is also like, you can have an event that you can't place within the normal, like your normal sphere of understanding what the world is. And so since your conscious can't make sense of it,
Right.
Then you sit there and you start like coming up with all of these explanations. And of course, in our society, especially for these people in the past, you have no one to talk to about it.
Right.
So you're ostracized on top of trying to make sense of something that feels very viscerally real to you. And it's kind of like, for anyone who hasn't had an abduction, which I've not, that I know of, but, to me, you could compare, I'm just saying, like the idea that if you've had a visitation, like if you've been, like someone passed away and either you were awake and you saw them at the foot of your bed or whatever, or you were asleep and you had that moment where you met
lucid
in your
dream.
sleep. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that you saw that you experienced it, that is as real as anything is real, and nobody can convince you differently. And then to have people go, like I did see a UFO, and to sit there and try to explain that, and people immediately try to poke holes in what you're
of
saying.
course.
It's like, what for what purpose, would I bring this up out of the blue?
Right.
Especially when I didn't really it's not that I didn't buy into it, but it wasn't on my horizon at all.
Right,
Like it was
right.
totally out of my purview and stuff. So, I can imagine why all the fear and all of that anxiety would come up. I mean, all that's very real reaction.
Right. And on top of that, to have people to discount it or tell you you're crazy is insulting.
Yeah.
And you don't have anywhere to turn. So that's why we wanted to share kind of that part in our talk. But the other interesting thing is we did a channeling this morning because I had a couple of things I needed to, what?
No, go
to
ahead.
ask.
I'm just curious. I want to know.
And we wanted to talk to Natalie's bearded dragon.
Our
we've
daughter's beard.
Are you
dragon.
serious?
We've never talked to a lizard. All the animals we've channeled, we've channeled snakes, but never lizards.
You know who you guys should have been channeling? Is the all the 2 strains of the cicadas that have come out.
Oh,
Well, but
Have you
we
even
haven't
seen
them.
any?
We haven't seen them here.
Okay, so when I was getting in the car to come up here, I actually went back inside and told my husband, which he wouldn't come out, but I was like, you got to come out and hear this. It was,
could hear 'em.
it was not that humid, because they
Yeah.
come out when it's morning time. It's not that humid, but there was one, and he was towards the top of this tree.
Just sawing away.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like it was just
Yep.
loud as all get out. And I'm like, that's not our usual cicadas. They don't do that. And they do them in groups. And this one was just like, I could hear something over this way, but he was loud and pronounced. Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I haven't.
So
I haven't seen
It's
that
been
would
dry,
be an interesting
but it's
one.
been dry here. So yeah, but once summer, we are in summer, but once it really starts to get humid here, I think that's when they'll start emerging.
Yeah. And then they go up and you're just going, oh, shut up. Yeah. Okay.
So off topic, rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So I wanted to talk about, I happened to mention, before we ended up talking to Twinkie is his name. It's a her, actually. Her name. Twinkie is the bearded dragon's name. I had a couple of questions. One of which was, why is Will seeing all of this UFO stuff on his feed? Because out in the mainstream, this stuff's coming out.
Oh, it's
whistleblowers and all of this kind of stuff is coming out now. The veracity of these stories, I don't know. The collective told us to use our discernment because not everything that's coming out is
Right.
true. However, it's starting to condition us to hearing about this stuff. And the collective this morning said it's soft disclosure. They used the
interesting.
term soft disclosure. They said it's coming into your social media and your consciousness, and it's creating a saturation point to lessen the impact of full disclosure when it happens.
Okay, what's super interesting about that, and you mentioned it before we sat down, and I had a thought because we were just talking about UFO stuff, and before you mentioned it, I was having this because I was kind of going, well, yeah, I can relate because I've been watching so much Stargate lately, SG-1 and Atlantis.
Yeah,
I'm in
okay.
season 8 where you got to go between, season 8 and season 1, like tandem watch is what my daughter calls it. And, but anyway, I realized, gosh, because I'm watching all of that, you get to meet the, what is the race that's the,
I'm not a big watcher.
I would not know.
it's the, it's not the Andromedans. I can't remember what they're called.
Is it
you
one of
guys
the 12
Put it
or-
down below. I can't remember. It's the one that looks like the little gray. And it just went, I know his name was Thor.
Not Zeta Reticuli.
No.
Interesting. No, I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
you guys, you'll know and put it below but I remember one of them's name was Thor. But anyway, I realized that watching it, and think about this, came out in the 80s,
Yeah.
90s, is that when you watch things like this, it helps to normalize.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was thinking that, and then you talked about soft disclosure, and you said, well, I'm going to tell you what soft disclosure is. And I'm like, okay, well, this will be interesting. And as you're talking about it, I'm going, oh, well, that
Ding,
was
ding, ding,
soft
ding, ding.
disclosure.
Yeah, right.
But the interesting thing I think about this soft disclosure as opposed to previously is that a lot of I don't know how Stargate is because I haven't watched it, or Star Trek, but did they have positive messages about these UFO beings, or was it always kill or be killed like all of the movies about all of these beings?
positive and a whole concept about, well, can't you just help us? And they're just like, no, because we're not going to
Free will.
interfere, or you're not ready for this kind of technology.
Yeah.
We've been responsible for the decimation of a species because of sharing,
Right.
the response, with great power comes great responsibility. So it's kind of showing those, and it also talks about leveling up in your consciousness, transcending instead of dying. Like, it gets into a lot of interesting things.
So some universal laws.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
honoring free
it's
will,
not-
for example.
they can get very campy,
Campy.
but it's not like Star Trek. Star Trek was
Yeah.
more like, us and them kind of thing.
Right.
Except for, what was the little cute furry
Tribbles.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know you were a Star Trek fan.
Oh,
You
I know.
just
I
that-
know just enough to be dangerous. That's all. So
But
Yeah.
so it's holding all of that kind of stuff. But
Well,
anyway,
and
so this is intentional. This soft
I
disclosure.
wonder. I mean, there are several people on Joe Rogan coming out with
yeah.
this
Oh
stuff.
yeah. I mean, I would say.
What
I mean,
they're-
Even Tucker Carlson had some
I've
stuff.
been watching Rogan pretty frequently now, and I would say every single guest that he has on, they dive into the whole UFO alien pool for a bit of the conversation.
and or the pyramids and all of that. And
Yeah.
obviously that ties to the UFO stuff.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have really started to enjoy listening to Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Because he's diving into
Well,
this
now that he's
stuff.
not affiliated with
Yeah, and
a news.
Well, there's no filter on him anymore.
Yeah, including his expletives.
Oh, yeah, no, it's yeah.
But hearing like a lot of his conversation has gotten into alternative therapies and you know plant medicines.
His horizon is broadening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but the thing is, the information he's sharing is broadening, but a lot of this he's kind of, you know, played around with, understood, but it's not like he could. Yeah. So I
share it, right.
find it really.
I like the guests that he's had lately. I don't care for all the political nonsense. I'm not into that. But some of the guests that he's bringing out, talking about some of the so-called conspiracy theories that
pulling
you know
the
need
fear out of it. It's
Right.
more like people be aware, just
Right.
be responsible.
So one of the big ones that came out was Russell Crowe. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That evidently.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't watch the video, but I saw the headline, which
I just saw the headline. I didn't watch the video.
basically was that ET or galactic beings founded our universe, right? Or that created humans, one or the other.
So we didn't catch where that message came from.
Right.
No, I forget.
Did you see?
No, I didn't. This is where I should have my computer and I'd be able to pull that stuff up, but I.
You
some
know, okay,
some
we gotta
podcasters
start
do
doing
that.
Yeah. We got to branch out, folks. We're going to start doing it.
We gotta
I've
up our
thought
game
several
here.
times that, we need to, I've grabbed my phone once or twice and done that. But yeah, that's kind of crazy when you like, you know, you kind of wonder, okay, are you stepping in here and doing it because it's now like
Fashionable.
Yeah, it's fashionable to do, or are you doing it because you want to get ahead of the game and you're help driving a message? In other words, you're a plant, maybe.
Or you have a true belief in what's going on.
And-
And now
haven't
you
been able
feel
to say anything.
more open to be able to
Right.
say something.
Yeah.
But as always, this is our favorite
Discernment.
word. The collective
Discernment.
said, and you're looking at all this stuff on your news feed, use discernment because not all of it is accurate. However, it is all serving a purpose because the more you hear all this stuff,
Now, I mean, the way I look at that is my discernment, your discernment, it's all different. So what I look at and I'm going, you might be looking at going, you know, that makes sense. And I'm okay with that is the way it should be.
I got the feeling that they meant because they said to us, use your discernment and you guys have good discernment and you understand what this is all about. So in other words, don't fall into fear if there's some sort of false flag or they say they're coming, the aliens are coming and they're going to kill everybody or whatever. Don't fall into fear about it because you understand differently.
Right.
Yeah.
But some of the stories are accurate and some are not. Like we asked about that Malaysia flight. A couple of months ago in the Thursday channeling that we asked about the Malaysia flight and because that's going around again, about did it go into a wormhole? Did somebody in our government create a wormhole and make it go into this, disappear into this wormhole? And they said, again, use your discernment that that's probably not the case. So everything you see that's coming down the pike is not necessarily true.
Well, and there's also, you know, we're human and humans have motive. You know, it's like you have a direction that you're presenting something. It's generally, you're not presenting something to be in a neutral space.
Right.
You're sharing something because it was funny or it's, you know, whatever. And you want to have other people laugh or believe you or whatever. So, you know, there are some very strong motives. The other thing, did you notice that, I think it's ChatGPT that just turned out another new rendition of like video
Oh, really?
AI
Yes,
creation.
yeah.
Oh, really?
And I'm sitting here watching this guy talking about it, and he goes, "In fact, I'm AI," and I'm sitting there going, "Well, maybe." I'm like, I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Like I was just, you know. And there's there in Spain, there is a woman. I don't think we talked about this. There's a woman a model who they're like renting out to all these people for modeling.
Yeah.
She's AI.
What,
And-
you're going to put all these people out of a job.
Yeah, and
all these aspiring models are not going to have
But
a
the
job.
thing is, she's perfection.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so-
but does she have 5 fingers or 6 or
Yes.
6.5?
She
Because that was the problem with the older
but
versions.
that's the thing, is that people can think about, like, they can put their designer clothes on her.
Yeah.
And it's fitting beautifully
Of course.
and perfect. And none of us are ever going to look like that. You know, the majority of us.
That's
will
really
never look
sad
like
because
that.
then again, you're going to have young girls trying to compare themselves to this,
To
which
AI. I mean, it was one thing when you were comparing yourself to a
Airbrushed.
human woman, an airbrushed human woman. Now you're comparing yourself to AI. Like, what the hell? That's not.
where are we
anyway.
going? We're going to hell in a handbasket,
We are.
putting people out of work.
Just make a lunch first, though.
Do what?
Make a lunch before you go to hell. So
Oh,
bring it in your hell.
pack your handbasket.
Pack your handbasket with a lunch so you can go to hell.
Well, but so, you know, with the whole disclosure thing and all of this, like like, it's good to keep up with what's being created out there, you know, and what's happening. And I guess more than anything right now, people need to learn what their truthometer is,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and like, because when you say discernment, it's kind of going, yeah, do I believe that or not? But there's that BS meter inside of you.
It isn't here. We're talking about
it's,
here.
You feel it here and you just go, and the thing is, somebody else it might feel totally right to them, but it's your perception of reality. So it doesn't fit right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
So I'm trying to figure out where my truthometer sits. Does it sit to the right?
Truthometer?
Or what did you call it?
Truthometer?
Truthometer.
Where does my
Truthometer?
truthometer sit? Does it sit to the left or to the right of my give a F meter? So I'm just trying to figure out
On your
on my
dashboard?
dashboard where these two go, because I'm
that's funny.
What was the other meter we just talked about in one of the podcasts? Skeptometer.
Skeptometer.
Okay, so then now I got
Now you have 3
Now I got a
meters.
gauge cluster. Now, yeah. So
Gauge cluster. It's like a cluster. Yeah.
Yeah, another kind of cluster.
Oh my God.
One of the other guys that we met that was one of the speakers
yeah.
was Brian Dobbs, and he is a filmmaker, and he did a documentary on Mars. I think it's called Red Planet Blue.
the Red Planet Blue.
Red
Yeah.
Planet Blue.
It's coming out. I think it isn't.
Is it not out yet?
No, we got the pre-release.
Ooh, did we?
Yeah, we got a
We just got
pre-release.
done watching it last night. It was
Yes,
incredible.
we got the VIP pre-release.
Well, we traded it for a book.
That's right.
And I'm hoping he'll read the Mars section first because a lot of what we
A lot of
channel.
what was in that book.
Oh my gosh, we connected with Brian and
Yeah.
as I was talking about Mars and life on Mars and all this sort of stuff that we understand from the channelings, he was like, "Oh my gosh, that was in." We talked about that in the documentary. So I finally got to watch the documentary, and he has 15, 20 at least
Yes.
high-level scientists, NASA people, space program people, government officials, people that used to work for the CIA doing remote viewing. He has on there. So this makes me feel more at ease knowing that there are such intelligent people who do believe that there was prior life on Mars if there isn't right now.
Okay, I was about to say, that was the big question.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone exist on there now?
We understand that there are some that are in the Earth, just
And
like we have inner Earth
And
beings
I
here.
forget who it was I forget which one of them. They did briefly mention, I think it was on there, or maybe it was on another interview that I was listening to, but it might have been on that movie, where they believe that they may have gone subterranean. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, I mean, all of the things that we were bringing up, there are actual scientists, PhD people talking about this stuff.
Well, and NASA's
was
finally,
amazing.
they just released a picture that shows these, it's not wind sweeping, but it's like when the water
Yeah.
comes up and down on the beach and
Yeah.
stuff, and it leaves these little water marks. Like
Yeah, the
it's-
little
it's-
ripples on the beach.
Yeah, and they were
Right.
showing pictures of that, and they're like,
Oh, they said that one of the scientists said that I forgot what the percentage was, but the majority of Mars was covered in water.
That it was like Earth. That's why they call it. He titled it Red Planet Blue because it is a red planet now because of the iron oxide or whatever. But that at the time when there probably was life, it looked very much like Earth.
Yeah.
And that's our understanding also. Because then the axis, the pole flipped. The axis was off a little bit and making it uninhabitable. At the same time, that galactic war, it's a whole thing, made Earth habitable because
Yeah.
its axis was rotated.
Okay, so what I find is really cool. So and I know you said, be cautious with the guy from
Suspicious Observers.
Observer. And but what I love is he will collect all the headlines of research papers and present them and stuff, just real briefly, not overwhelming. Hey, if you're interested, you can go look at this, but it supports this theory or this or whatever. And so I've been catching a lot of his stuff and then kind of going to look at some of the things where it has to do with space and other planets and all this kind of stuff. And I love it because they're pointing out that through that the latest telescope or whatever,
James Webb.
That through that they're now beginning to observe all of these things happening out in our universe that before they had said it doesn't work this way, this can't happen, and now all of a sudden it's like they really know nothing. Like we really don't like. We were working on a hypothesis based off of certain, like even carbon dating's been blown.
Right.
Like you can't properly even carbon date. And that was because of a study where it was at a university, I think, where they took something that was ancient old, and they took something that was newer and,
said it was millions of years old or something.
Yeah. So it's
think
just
about the
fascinating.
implication of that. That changes. That makes everything in our history
Everything
null and void.
and everything possible.
Right.
That's what blows my.
Right.
So I'm like, people, you need to listen to Graham Hancock. Like that poor guy has been so marginalized, and I'm so impressed with how he has stuck to his guns. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Like to put forth all that he has and to be able to, from whatever evidence is out there, to prove his various theories.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's even becoming more and more possible because we really don't freaking know.
Robert Edward Grant is another one to listen to.
Yep.
But even those two, Graham Hancock, because I don't know him that well.
And I don't know Robert.
Robert Edward Grant also, but they're still operating to some degree, not so much Graham, I think, with this old philosophy of what the pyramids were used for.
Yeah. Well, in Stargate, they're used as landing pads for the.
But they predate humanity. So it's not a matter of the ETs coming down and helping humans build it or building it for humans. They predate human existence.
Yeah.
So they're on the verge of figuring that out, but they haven't yet.
Yeah, there were a couple recent interviews on Rogan that they talked about that, and it was quite intriguing because both of these interviews had the same assumptions that it was definitely not a burial chamber or a series of burial chambers. It was more of a mechanical power generation device.
Now, who is saying that?
Or was it originally?
There were two. This Christopher Dunn and most recently, what's the fellow that I just told you about? He was on Rogan.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so
But that's closer to the truth.
right. So they both agree that because I think it was the second interview. The Nile actually, they would divert or the Nile actually ran under that whole complex and subterranean, and they were able to somehow strip off and then create hydrogen, and so it was basically a hydrogen generator. And from that point, the way that the pyramid was constructed was to have this, and this goes back to what Tesla was saying with the Tesla wireless electrical system, that's exactly what was in place. It emitted an electrical frequency that then was received by different points around the planet to power things.
So we didn't get into the nitty-gritty in this book, our book, about the mechanics of it, like hydrogen and all that sort of stuff. But we were told that those pyramidal structures, not all of them, but some of them, were brought in by a group from outside the galaxy called the Constructors and Builders.
Oh, yeah.
In order to funnel energies from outside around the galaxy to create the atmosphere so that humans could actually exist.
Which totally makes sense. Like if you've watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, remember, like they were constructing new planets and stuff, and they were slated to get rid of Earth.
And I think there was a Star Trek episode too, or maybe it was one of the movies where they actually there was a planet object, but they needed to have an atmosphere in an environment, and they basically dropped something down to the planet, and it
creates an atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's so. Something that I want to say is as a disclaimer, because something that I went through as somebody who helps people with past life regressions and stuff. Because when all of this stuff started coming out, I'm going, well, then how can some of the stuff that that I've helped people realize or see or whatever, how can that be true? And so one instance is somebody, I regressed them back and they remember life working on the pyramids. And like they were talking about their hand, like it's awful. And their hands were just like bloodied all the time. And they lived in kind of underground sort of bunkers, and it was very descriptive and everything. It was a very sad, short life. And I was like, well, but we didn't build the pyramids, and then it was like, oh no, but we did recreate other pyramids. We did other things that had to do. So that expression of, well, I worked on the pyramids doesn't mean I built the So you have to realize that it doesn't make the present information that we've channeled so forth null and void. It's that there are, and I'm not saying there's many truths, but there's levels to our understanding and how things have been used, and just how many lifetimes humanity has existed and died back and come back again. And
it's not to say that the pyramid wasn't already there, and then humans themselves then built upon it.
They were used for different things.
Throughout history, you can see where churches and synagogues and other things have been built upon other churches and synagogues, so it's just a continual evolution as we
because
progress.
They were still energetically significant. So doing things, burials or whatever ceremonies within that space was still powerful.
And then you can trail off into a couple different avenues of the whole, and I think we may have touched on it a little bit. I think it's a little bit in the book about the whole reptilian aspect and how some believe that humans are basically slaves to the reptilians because they're here to strip gold out of the planet because that's what helps their planet. I mean, there's a whole ball you can dive into, but again, it's all about, I look at it as, okay, well, that doesn't resonate with me, so it's not part of my truth sphere. So I'll listen to it, I'll entertain it, but it just doesn't ring true to me. Some others, that's fine. Let it ring true to you. I mean, that's your reality perspective.
Maybe they're on a different timeline or something.
You're experiencing something a bit different. I mean,
they did try. The reptilians did try to control humans, and that was their goal. They wanted to, sort of like AIs, have everybody on the same kind of connected to some AI type of thing to be able to control all of the humans. That didn't work, and at this point, that's not an agenda that's on our timeline or our horizon. But so this was fascinating. There were several topics about this whole UFO fest and all of that I wanted to cover.
Oh, sorry. Should we do a part two?
No, that was it. That was it.
Okay.
This is what we wanted to chat about. Were some of these things that we brought up at the UFO fest, or people that we met. It was very exciting. If you get a chance, look up Brian Corey Dobbs.
Yes.
Red Planet Blue. We'll have all of that stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll have it in the description down below.
And Robert Edward Grant and Graham Hancock, and start watching some of those Rogan episodes and all of that. Terrence Howard was on there recently. That'll blow your mind.
Yeah, he just kind of came out of nowhere, and in my opinion, but it's like he's been working on these concepts for a while now.
If you can strap in and strap your head in. And
what is it, 3 hours?
It's 3+ hours, and it's packed full of information.
Right.
That's his Harvard speech or what was that?
He did one in Cambridge. He did a Cambridge
Terrence
speech.
Howard did?
Yeah, they brought him into Cambridge.
Wow.
But several other guests after that have brought up a lot of the stuff that he's talked about and said, I never realized he had that wealth of knowledge in him.
Yeah, you're thinking, okay, he's an actor.
Well, he's an actor, right? That's what you're right.
But the guy, acting was just paying the bills. Meanwhile, he's learning
doing patents.
He's just racking patents up one after another. So, and I mean,
the periodic table. I was like, whoosh,
I've never tried to do a patent, so I don't know if it's easy or hard or how much money is involved with it. But I mean, I guess you can get stuff patented. But what he's trying to get patented or what he's gotten patented, it all makes sense. I mean, it's absolutely.
And that's what he's talking a lot
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, strap in. I like that. That's a perfect way to describe it.
It's going to be a quick ascent into a lot of stuff.
Well, so here's the thing. It's not the aliens that are coming to save us. It's us coming to save ourselves. And they're giving us hints and nudges,
Sure.
you know, and
They're rooting for us for sure.
yeah, but
leaving
this,
us,
But they're not here to hurt us,
leaving us little breadcrumbs to pick up,
and they're not here to save
learn.
us.
Yeah,
They're here to be partners with us.
yeah.
and they have a great admiration, respect for who
Right.
we are.
Right.
And
And they want to welcome humanity into the galactic family because we are them, they are us, and we belong there. So it's time. So get ready.
Yes.
2024, we still have a lot to cover,
So I got 6 months.
can't wait
Well,
for
5.5 months.
2025.
right? Well, thanks for joining us on this fun episode. Hit that like button if you haven't already and the notification bell so that you'll know when we're starting our origin story book story or book study or anything else that's coming down the pike. And until next time, see you later.
Bye.